Slight question.
City of Rockaway Beach Special City Council meeting on Tuesday, September 9th at 5:30 will come to order. The City Council and staff want our business meetings to be a safe place for all to attend and share their opinions, a place of common courtesy and civility. As such, we request all persons in attendance respect those attending and the opinions of those with whom you may disagree during the meetings, prior to the meetings, during breaks, and after meetings. This will enable our community to establish an environment wherein all issues and opinions may be fairly considered, and decisions, though sometimes difficult, will be made in a spirit of mutual respect for all community members, no matter our differences. Please place your cell phones on silent and let's stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Board who is in attendance, Council President Cheek.
Present.
Councillor Conriff.
Present.
Councillor Martine. Here. Councillor McGinnis.
Here.
Councillor Ryan.
Here.
And Mayor McNeely is present. We do not have a consent agenda to consider or presentations or staff reports, so we'll move directly to the public hearing. Application on remand by the Land Use Board of Appeals, LUBA, number 2025-001 on July 2nd, 2025, related to application of the Nadana Development for Phase 2 Planned Unit Development Approval, PUD 24-1. The case file for this matter is remand 25-1. The City Council should now consider...
No.
The City Council should now consider an application on remand by the Land Use Board of Appeals, number 2025-001 on July 2nd, 2025, related to the application of Donata Development for Phase 2 Planned Unit Development Approval, PUD 24-1, by conducting a public hearing. The case file for this matter is remand 25-1. Anyone wishing to provide public testimony shall sign the public testimony sign-up sheet with your name and mailing address. The sign-up sheet is located on the table outside of the entrance doors to the council meeting room. If you haven't signed up and you wish to speak, please take a moment and go out and sign up on the sheet. All right, it is 5:32, and I now open the public hearing on Land Use Remand 25-1, which is the application on remand by the Land Use Board of Appeals 2025-001 on July 2nd, 2025, related to the application of Nadana Development for Phase 2 Planned Unit Development Approval, PUD 24-1. My name is Charles McNeely, and I am the Mayor of Rockaway Beach and Chair for this meeting. The City Council will conduct a de novo review in which City Council will accept new evidence and argument limited to the two assignments of air on which LUBA remanded to the city. The first assignment of air relates to the application of the special area wetland zone to the lots proposed in PUD 24-1. The second assignment of air relates to the application of a condition of approval of the 2008 PUD to the second phase of the PUD. LUBA concluded that a remand is appropriate to allow the city to adopt more adequate findings. This remand hearing will be conducted in accordance with the land use procedures of Rockaway Beach Zoning Development Code and state law, ORS 197.797. Specifically, staff will first present the staff report and recommendation, which will include a summary of the remanded matter, along with the applicable criteria subject to this application. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present, addressing any issues raised within the staff report and recommendation. Following those presentations, we will have public testimony. I will first ask to hear from people who would like to speak in favor of the application. Then we will hear from those who have neutral comments or questions about the application. And finally, we will then hear from any individuals opposed to the application. Following public testimony, we will have staff return to respond to the presentations and public testimony if necessary, or answer any questions that have come up from the council. Then the applicant will be given the opportunity to have the last word. After each presentation, I will ask for questions from the City Council. As a reminder, this is not the stage at which City Council will debate the merits of the remand and application, but an opportunity for City Council members to obtain clarity on statements and arguments made during the presentations. We are recording this hearing, so please speak clearly when you are called to speak. Please state your name, indicate whether you are a resident of Rockaway Beach, and provide your mailing address for the record if you are providing public testimony. This will help in preparing accurate written minutes of this appeal hearing and will also assist with mailing copies of the decision to all interested parties. Regarding public comment will be limited to 4 minutes per person. Please remember that all presentations will be timed. The electronic egg next to our city manager will count down, giving speakers a 1-minute warning by turning yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time. All speakers exceeding the time limit will be asked by the chair to immediately conclude his or her remarks. If you are not able to finish your remarks, be sure to provide a copy of your statement to the staff. The applicant will not be limited to 4 minutes, but is encouraged to limit their presentations as they are able to respect our time constraints tonight. In order to minimize repetitive testimony, organizations are encouraged to have only one person speak for the group, with other members of the organization standing to show their support. Each person may testify only once, unless called back to the podium at the request of a city councilor to respond to a question. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. The mayor and council are required to disclose any conflicts of interest, bias, or ex parte contacts that we have with the application, applicant, or appellant. Specifically, a conflict of interest exists if a councilor will receive a financial benefit or detriment from a decision, that is, a specific vote on this matter. Ex parte contacts include any communication, verbal, visual, written, or otherwise, with any party about the underlying application outside of this present hearing. City councilors may only participate if they can do so without undue bias for or against the application before them. Since the council received some email correspondence prior to the notice for this hearing, and council members were present at the July 16th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting and the July 17th, 2025 City Council meeting where public comments were expressed about this underlying application and remand, staff had included these documents in the record for the purpose of disclosing ex parte contacts on behalf of the full council. Do any councilors wish to make additional disclosures? Raise your hand if you do.
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
Councilor McGinnis?
I have two, or maybe just one, actually. I didn't apply, to get this right. I was offered a scholarship by Oregon Coast Visitors Association to go to an accessibility and travelability conference in Sun River in October, and they offered the scholarship to 6 people and 6 different organizations. And I did not know ahead of time, but Oregon Shores, who's part of this land use appeal, also received a scholarship. And I've only met that person one time, and it was on a Zoom meeting where Oregon Coast Visitors Association just introduced us to each other. And this person from Oregon Shores and I had no real substantial conversation about anything, and we did not discuss this. So it will not affect my judgment.
Thank you.
And when I said I had 2, I meant like those 2 things rolled into one.
Thank you. Councilor Conrad?
I did receive a couple of emails regarding this. I'm not sure if they were sent to all counselors or not. I did not read them. I did not open them, and it will not sway any judgment.
I do not believe any ex parte contacts will affect or impair my ability to review this appeal and record before me. I am able to act as a fair and impartial decision maker, and I can make a decision based on the facts, the record, and the criteria applicable to this matter. Are there any challenges from the audience as to conflicts of interest, ex parte contacts, or bias related to any member of the City Council? I see that there are no challenges. We are now moving on to required statements. State law requires me to tell you a number of things at the beginning of this hearing. First, the applicable substantive criteria that apply to this application are contained in the written staff report and will be identified and discussed in the oral staff report. Second, your testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward these criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply to this decision, and that's ORS 197.797B. Third, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker or other people an opportunity to respond may preclude future appeal of a decision on this application based on that issue, ORS 197.797.5C. Finally, to the applicant, failure to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court, ORS 197.796.3B. With that, may we please hear from the staff?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to give a staff presentation covering the issues. For those who haven't met me, my name is Abram Tapia. I'm the city planner.
Excuse me, could you slow down your speech, please? You're almost unintelligible.
All right, we'll do that. So today I'm going to, next slide, please. So today in the staff presentation, I'm going to provide a very brief summary of the nature of the application. So basically covering the history of how we got here. I'm going to present evaluation of the remand. So what exactly LUBA asked the Land Use Board of Appeals asked us to do as a city. Then I will also talk about a brief summary of staff findings for assignment of error 1 and assignment of error 2. And then I will conclude the presentation with the formal staff recommendation. And then after that, I will take questions as they arise. Next slide, please. So I'm going to begin with the nature of the application. So the history of this application dates back to 2007 when the applicant submitted a planned unit development application for a 28 lot planned unit development in 2007. Basically, in a course of 3 public hearings in 2008, the city approved this PUD application, both approving the preliminary development plan and the final plan, as well as other documents. In 2008, the city council approved the addition of PUD as an overlay zone to the zoning map. So this moves us forward to 2024, which is the case that is before us now. Again, any decisions that were made in 2008 are final and not subject to this hearing. And you will hear me say that multiple times, and you'll find that in the staff report as well. In 2024, the applicant requested to modify 4 components of the 2008 approved final plan. Those components are in my staff report. On June 20th of 2024, the Planning Commission only approved a request to create additional lots. This decision was appealed to the City Council, and then the City Council considered the challenges presented before it and denied the appeal on all grounds. Then that City Council decision was appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals in January 2nd, 2025. And then the Land Use Board of Appeals remanded 2 assignments of error back to the city. And that brings us to where we are sitting today, or standing. So I'm going to provide a quick evaluation of the remand. Next. So what is a remand? So LUBA returned the decision to the City Council to adopt additional findings, as LUBA did not have enough information to either sustain or reverse City Council previous decision. So what we're doing today is finding additional findings that will support a new conclusion based on the 2 assignments of error. And again, I will state it, the 2008 PUD decision is final,
and not subject to our review. So any errors that the Planning Commission or City Council made in 2008 cannot be amended or appealed today. We are really focusing only on the 2024 appeal. So what did LUBA ask us as a city to do? So I'm going to present the first assignment of error, which LUBA asked that the city determine which parts of the property are subject to the special area wetland zone and whether any portion of the 2024 proposed lots are in the SA zone. There is a little picture there. I will enhance it for better visibility. So for this purpose, LUBA asked us to have a map that determines the exact location of the zone boundary for the R1 zone and the SA zone. Next slide. And so highlighted in red are the particular lots of the 2024 decision. None of the other lots are subject to this first assignment of error or review for this first assignment of error. So I'm going to present my staff findings. So LUBA was clear in the remand that the special area wetland zone is a base zone, which does not list residential development as either permitted or conditional use in that zone. In 2008, the Planning Commission and City Council found that 3.9 acres of the site was zoned as R1 residential and 2.3 acres were zoned as SA special area wetland. However, in 2008, the Planning Commission and City Council did not specify the physical location of these zones, nor did they reference a zoning map to make that determination. So in the remand, LUBA asked the city to adopt findings that rely on the comprehensive plan and zoning map dated February 1992 to determine the correct zone boundaries. So next slide, please. So when the site in question is overlaid with the physical comprehensive plan and zoning map dated February 1992, it becomes apparent that the zoning map is not adequate to accurately assess the zoning designation of the site. On the left is a simple overlay of the site and our zoning map or comprehensive plan map. And there's a lot of features of that map that don't align. For example, the railroad is not where the actual railroad is located, nor is Highway 101, and some of the street center lines are also not aligned. So after doing some distortion, those features can be better aligned, but the accuracy of the distortion of the zoning map to better align those sites is inaccurate and is imprecise and does not reflect the regular process the city employs to determine the zone designation of a lot within the city limits or urban growth boundary. Next slide. So a better map that we have that we can rely on to find the designation of whether or not the lots are in the SA zone or the R1 zone is our GIS tool. There's a layer on that tool that was created in 2015 that can more precisely help us line the physical location with our zoning map. And that is what I'm presenting in Exhibit H, which would be on the right. Next slide, please. So the city believes that the use of the GIS tool is reasonable and appropriate to accurately determine the location of the SA zone on the property. And those are for the two lots that were marked in red. And the proposed lots are located in areas mapped as the SA zone in our GIS tool. Next slide. So I'm going to now move to the second assignment of error. So in the second assignment of error, the LUBA asked us to determine whether or not the original 2008 PUD approval is valid. So more specifically, LUBA asks whether or not the Exhibit B Final Plat Condition 1 applied to the second phase of the planned unit development as modified in 2008. So what happened and when did that happen becomes important when answering this question. So a lot of digging through the historic record to interpret and analyze whether or not that exhibit condition applied to the second phase. Next slide, please. Sorry, previous slide. So Exhibit B sets conditions for approval for the phase 2 of the PUD unless those conditions were specifically amended in Exhibit D. And these are exhibits of the historic record. We found that Exhibit D did not specifically amend the final plat requirement for the PUD to complete the improvements within 1 year of the tentative plan approval. Exhibit D modified the tentative plan approval to allow for phasing. It did not limit the original tentative plan approved May 27, 2008 to either phase, suggesting that the condition for approval timeframe of 1 year for the improvements was postponed from May 27, 2009 to July 22, 2009. And no condition was set which required the applicant to seek an additional tentative plan approval for phase 2 per section 10.0601D of our zoning ordinance. So because the conditions of approval were not met, we find that the underlying 2008 decision is no longer valid. So to conclude, next slide. Based on the findings and conclusions included in the staff report, and the staff report is a lot more extensive than this presentation is, the staff report and conclusion, the staff support the conclusion to reverse the Planning Commission's July 18th, 2024 decision on the application for the PUD, and in doing so, deny the application. And I'll take any questions at this time.
If any counselors have questions, just please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Any questions for City Planner Tapia?
I just want to make sure that things are clarified. When we are hearing testimony today, or when we make the decision later in a couple of weeks, we cannot go by anything else other than the legal facts and the staff report. Is that correct? City Council can definitely consider if there are other facts that are relevant to deciding whether or not for assignment of error 1, what areas are designated SA zone or R1. For the second assignment of error, any facts that would help us decide whether or not that condition of approval applied to the second phase, or whether or not that condition approval is relevant for all testimony has to be related directly to assignment error 1 or assignment error 2, anything else?
To those specific questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move on. May we please hear from the applicant? Come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Dean Alterman, ALTERMAN. My mailing address is 805 Southwest Broadway, Suite 1580, Portland, Oregon. I am here as an attorney for the applicant, Nadana Development. Mr. Tapia gave you a very fair presentation of the facts and the history of how we got here. I don't think you will be surprised. The applicant disagrees, however, with the staff report's legal conclusions for a variety of reasons, which I'll run through. One of the assignments of error, the second, is when the city modified the PUD approval in 2008 to authorize 2 phases instead of 1, did it intend for Nadana Development to build all of the improvements for phase 2, even though it had not yet applied for a plat for phase 2? And I will answer that question later in the presentation. The first assignment of error is rather broader, however, than your planner has presented it. Luba asked you a pretty broad question, which was not just where is the boundary between R1 and SA, but what role do the R1 and SA zones play in your decision to approve phase 2? That question is going to have a surprising answer, which I'll hide for a moment. The short answer is that it won't matter where the boundary line is, but there is enough evidence in the record to show that all of the land proposed for development in phase 2 is outside the SA area and is inside the R1 area. First, section 3.080 of your zoning code states that the city may require a wetlands delineation of developments proposed in the vicinity of land zoned SA, and the delineation will fix the boundary between the SA zone and the R1 zone. A delineation was done in 2006, I believe, submitted as part of the 2007 application, approved in 2008 with the PUD approval. The zone line is fixed. It's where the delineation was because the city adopted it. But that question has a very, very easy answer. I'd like to back up a little bit and just explain on the procedural history. There actually have been 5 or 6 decisions to date, and they need to be teased apart just a little bit for you to make a good decision tonight. First, there was the final approval of the PUD plan. Then there was the zone change for the PUD that applied the PUD overlay to the entire property, both phase 1, which has been built, and phase 2, which is here tonight. Then there was a tentative approval for the phase 1 plat that didn't involve phase 2. The final approval for the phase 1 plat after Nadana Development had built all the improvements for phase 1 and most of the phase 2 improvements. And then the phase 2 plat, the tentative plat, which was here, went up, came back, and was back before you again. In the September 2008 approval, the city adopted findings of fact that required Nadana Development to install necessary improvements, and I quote, prior to approval of the final plat, unless an improvement agreement is approved by the city council, and a slightly different finding, prior to final plat, and the word plat I think is intentional here, approval, all on-site improvements shall be completed as necessary to serve the project. You'll find that on page 10 of the decision from 2008. Then when the city modified the approval for the PUD to allow 2 phases instead of 1 phase, it modified many of those conditions, changing prior to approval of the final plat to read prior to final subdivision plat approval. Those words, in fact, are underlined throughout that decision, meaning that whatever that final approval was, it was something different than the PUD approval. A PUD approval is not a subdivision approval. They're different processes. You approve PUDs through your zoning code. You approve subdivisions through your land partition ordinance. They have different standards. And here the city was saying that Nadana Development must complete the improvements for the subdivision before the city will issue a final subdivision approval. Had nothing to do with PUDs. PUDs don't have plats. Subdivisions have plats. Now, some more in depth about the development in the R1 zone. The city code is very clear that the boundary between the SA zone and other zones isn't necessarily where the zoning map. And the zoning map, of course, predates this subdivision. It predates phase 1. It predates Nadana Meadows. None of those roads are shown on what is still the zoning map on the city's website. It's old. And it's rather vague. It has big, thick stripes that are as wide as a lot that separate one zone from another. For Nadana Wave, we know where the boundary between the SA and the R1 zone is for all of these reasons which are in the record. First, Nadana Development provided a wetlands delineation in 2006, which the city accepted. The boundary of phase 2 matches the delineation from 2006. The city accepted that. Second, the city approved the PUD plan in 2008, including residential development exactly where Nadana Development proposes it for phase 2. The city could not have approved that plan unless that land was zoned R1. It's a little much to think that the planning director of the day and the planning commission and the city council all were mistaken about where the boundary was between the 2 zones. It's much easier to assume that the Tillamook County's GIS system is wrong when it shows the city zoning in places that make 23 of the houses in the city illegal. Third, Nadana Development provided a wetlands delineation with the phase 2 application, which is in the record before you now. And with only one deviation of consequence, the wetlands are in the same place they were in 2006. The one deviation is the right-of-way of Jackson Street, which is city property, because Nadana Development excavated Jackson Street but didn't fill it back up and pave it. It wasn't a wetland in 2006. It is a wetland now, but it's also a city street. The county's GIS map is not reliable. It's not something on which you can reasonably base a decision because it doesn't show the actual city zoning. You added PUD to the designation for phase 1 and phase 2. Go look on the map and find where it says PUD. You won't find it. It's not accurate. It doesn't reflect the actual land use. It doesn't match, as you saw, it doesn't match the city zoning map in any great respect. And it's supposed to show all zoning changes that have taken place since 1992. But clearly it doesn't show a zoning change that you made in 2008. It's not reliable. Now, if, however, the zoning is, as the staff report suggests, the 4 houses that are on Song Street, the 13 houses on the east side of Kittiwake Drive from Song Street north to the Condolini House, 26659 Kittiwake, the Park House on the west side at 26484 Kittiwake, and 5 of the houses on Section Line Street are all in the SA zone. If you adopt the staff report, you are saying that all those houses were built in the SA zone in violation of your code. They are all illegal and they shouldn't be there. I don't think it's consistent with how the city is operated, and I'd like to suggest that it's not consistent with your past decisions to adopt a decision tonight that makes 23 houses in the city illegal uses, not non-conforming uses, because the zoning was wherever it was in 2008, but illegal uses, uses that are subject to abatement. That is a consequence of the staff interpretation of the zoning, that 23 houses have to go away. When you heard the prior appeal from the Planning Commission in December, your former planning director told you that the city has historically applied the SA zone as an overlay to neighboring residential zones. And she identified for you the fact that there were many nearby properties that had been developed as recently as 2021 that are in the SA zone, but were approved for development after the applicants in those cases submitted a wetlands delineation to the city. That's the same process that Mrs. Song and Donna Development are doing here. Submit a delineation, show the development is occurring outside the wetlands, and get approval, in this case, consistent with decisions from the city that go back 17 years. Does it matter though? Luba asked you to evaluate how the R1 zone and the SA zone apply. How do they relate? How do they restrict the use of this property? And here you have a very odd quirk in your zoning code at section 10.030, which authorizes 4 uses in PUD. Single unit dwellings, middle housing, and multi-unit dwellings. You amended that on June 11th. Before that, it said single family dwellings, including detached, attached, or semi-detached units, and accessory buildings, garages, sheds, well houses, etc. Commercial uses only when supported by the PUD. And then buildings or uses listed as permitted outright or conditionally in the parent zone on which the PUD is located. You can always build what is permitted outright or conditionally in the parent zone. So what do the other 3 things add? This section of code is saying that in a PUD, you may build single family housing even if the parent zone does not allow it. You build it under section 1, single family housing. It doesn't matter what the parent zone is if the land is zoned for a PUD and if you don't exceed the overall density. That is the plain meaning of your code, and that is why ultimately it doesn't matter exactly where the boundary line is as long as all of the lots are inside the PUD, which they are. That interpretation also legitimizes or re-legitimizes the houses already built on Song Street in phase 1. The city here has determined the parent zone contains 3.9 acres of R1 land, which is about 169,800 square feet. The margin of error in decimals is enough where it might be more than 170,000. The density in R1 is 5,000 square feet per lot. That means either, as long as the total density inside the PUD is either 33 or 34 units or less, it doesn't matter where they are inside the PUD. Your PUD code says they can be anywhere. And that's why ultimately it doesn't matter where the boundary line is. That's a very easy question to answer for Google. Now, as to the second assignment of error and the time limit for constructing the public improvements, the original approval stated that Nadana Development would have to construct the improvements within 1 year after the city approved the tentative plat. In context, I think that meant construct all of the improvements for the entire PUD, even though only a small portion of it was getting built. When the city authorized phasing in July 2008, the city said, authorize Nadana Development, and now I'm going to quote from the decision, to specifically postpone, hang on to the word postpone because I'm going to come back to it, please, to postpone the installation of the remaining utilities in Riley Street east of Kitty the regional pump station and related housings, the extension of the existing 6-inch White Dove sewer manhole at 17th Avenue, and paving the remainder of Riley Street east of Kitty and paving Jackson Street. Nadana Development did all of the improvements except those. It completed all the improvements that the city actually required with phase 1. Now, what is the meaning of postpone? Well, you don't usually build your improvements until you have a subdivision that's been approved that you can build for. What happens if you build your street and then the city approves with the street somewhere else? Nobody does that. The staff interpretation suggests that the postponement of the improvements for phase 2 was for a period of 2 months only from the date the city approved phasing. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that somebody would have to build the improvements before they have applied for tentative plat approval. How can you build improvements for a plat that isn't there yet? That is not consistent with the interpretation, with what your code says. It's not consistent with how you have handled that. What kicks off the requirement is the city's approval, not of the PUD, but of the tentative plat. Under your code, when the city approved the PUD plan, Nadana Development had 1 year to submit an application for the subdivision, and when that was tentatively approved, 1 year to go build the improvements. You approved phasing, they submitted an application for phase 1. Within 1 year, they built all the improvements for phase 1, and the city signed off on it. When the city signed the plat, the city certified, in essence, that Nadana Development had built every single improvement that was required for phase 1. That it is not a reason to deny phase 2, that Nadana Development failed to do something for phase 1, because you have already found that they did everything required for phase 1. On page 12 of the staff report, there's a statement, no condition was set in the approval of the phasing, I think in the approval of the project. No condition was set which required the applicant to seek an additional tentative plan approval for phase 2 for section 1.060 of the zoning code. The city didn't need to set that condition because subdivisions, plats, aren't handled under your zoning code. They are handled under the completely different ordinance, the land partition code. That's where you apply for a plat. That's how you get approval for a plat. That ordinance says when you apply for approval for a subdivision and you get approval, you have 1 year to go build the improvements for that subdivision unless you get an extension. Not until this time did Nadana Development apply to plat phase 2, and therefore the time to build the remaining improvements for phase 2 hasn't started. It's measured from the approval. You gave us that approval in December. It's come back. It's currently unapproved. The 1 year hasn't started. So in summary, the boundary between the R1 zone and the SA zone is set by wetlands delineation. That's what your code says. That's what the applicant did. The city set that boundary when it approved the PUD plan in 2008. However, under your PUD ordinance, it doesn't matter where the boundary is as long as the total density in the entire PUD doesn't exceed 32 or 33 units. The time for Nadana Development to build phase 2's improvements, the ones that the city authorized it to postpone without setting an ending time on it, hasn't started yet because Nadana Development hasn't received tentative plat approval for phase 2. That's what's here now. You should again approve it. I'm certainly happy to work with staff on crafting appropriate findings to support your decision. Are there any questions I can answer? I know I've
Councilors have a question, raise your hand, please. Nope, doesn't look like there are any questions. Thanks very much. We will now hear from members of the public who wish to speak about this application. Please remember that testimony must be directed towards the applicable standards and criteria for which the appeal was filed and as outlined in the staff report. We'll begin with those in favor of the application. I have the sign-up sheet. Anyone joining us remotely who wishes to provide comment in favor of the application can notify the meeting monitor now by clicking the raise hand icon, and we will add you to the sign-up sheet. Do we have folks watching remotely for public comment in favor?
Hands are raised.
On the sheet, I have Dean Alterman. Did you want to?
Yes, I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we will hear from anyone with neutral testimony or comments. I do again have the sign-up sheet. Anyone joining us remotely who wishes to provide neutral testimony or comment can notify the meeting monitor now by clicking the raise hand icon, and we will add you to the sign-up sheet. Do we have folks watching remotely for neutral comment?
Hands are raised.
Finally, we will hear from anyone in opposition to the application who would like to speak. I have the sign-up sheet. Anyone joining us remotely who wishes to provide testimony in opposition to the application can notify the meeting monitor now by clicking the raised hand icon, and we will add you to the sign-up sheet. Do we have folks watching remotely who wish to comment in opposition?
First is Gary. Second is Eric Riston. Bragg.
Eric?
Last name spelled Wriston.
Is your last name for Gary?
There is no.
Okay.
I'll give it.
Third hand is Chris, Chris, no last name. That's it for the hands raised.
All right, thank you. All right, the chair recognizes Dick Martindale. Please approach the podium and state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
Dick Martindale, 8255 Victoria Street, Rockaway Beach. And again, my apologies in advance, but this is on the assignment of Area 2. And I'm not positive it's germane, but in reading that, I read into it that expiration, there's a debate over whether this has expired. I know that's a very simplistic way to look at it, but I am in favor of having expiration dates simply to keep up with comprehensive plan changes and subsequent ordinance changes. So something that was approved originally in 2008, there's been a myriad of changes since then, at least what I've read from the comp plan. One of which, and this is just an example, is the effort by the city to rein in short-term rental units. And I think it was back in 2024 when the city passed a resolution limiting those to, I think, 420. This is just an example of linking current proposals to other existing city documents, such as the comp plan and resolutions. And at the time, there was 420, or the number to shoot for was 420. I think there was over 465 at the time of short-term rental units. So I'm just saying to highlight the need for new development to link back with all these other city documents, I think it's, and I don't know where we're at now with short-term rentals, but I would imagine that any new development in the city, there's going to be a percentage of homeowners that are going to wish to turn that into an income property as a short-term rental, which will kind of exacerbate the city's effort to rein that number in a little bit. And two, the people the existing residents that already are using those for short-term rentals, I read the ordinance today, I wasn't quite clear on if they would in fact be in some sense competing for this pool of 420 from new development. So I would just ask that the city would take a look at any new development and how it applies to current comp plan and current ordinance,
The Tarrant Point.
the example of the short-term rental cap already being exceeded. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Nancy Webster. Please approach the podium and state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
My name is Nancy Webster. I reside at 12, Box 1219, Rockaway Beach, 97136. I am submitting this booklet here. My focus is going to be on delineation. I'm submitting this booklet. I'm representing only myself. I'm submitting this booklet to people to pass around, which shows maps of delineation according to the state land maps and also stream delineation. Why delineation is important. These wetlands safeguard and protect our backup water sources. 75% of septic tanks are in our neighborhood over the shallow water aquifer. August 2nd, our wells have been pumping, one well pumping to supplement the Jetty Creek low stream flow. The validity of the applicant's 2024 delineation last summer, I question. We witnessed the applicant in June bulldozing into the proposed development, including bulldozing down native plants and vegetation. In August, we observed a contract worker working on delineation in the clearings that was clearly during our hottest, driest month. Third, on the delineation map that the applicant provided, did not provide clear mapping of streams, including McMillan Stream and the Donna. These streams flow from 600 feet down the hill into our neighborhood, merging at Riley, flowing through the wetland into the estuary, into the Nehalem Bay, and into the ocean. Why this is important. In 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court redefined wetland delineation. Wetlands need to flow into a navigable stream, water. These streams definitely qualify. They're flowing into the ocean. Thank you. And one more comment. This Nadana stream, that flows into McMillan Creek at Riley, is listed by the ODFW as a fish-bearing stream, and county regulations on fish-bearing stream are a minimum of 30 feet. Thank you.
All right, the chair recognizes Paul. I'm not sure your last name. Is it Gower?
Close.
Okay, so I apologize.
It's government without the mint on it.
Okay, well, please podium and state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
Okay. Name is Paul Gover. I reside 26040 Nadana Avenue in Nadana. I've heard a lot of legalistic terms that I don't understand. I'm a simple guy. We moved here in 2020 and we full-time residents since 2020. I've seen a lot of development in Nadana. My really concern is the water table. My concern is the wetlands. My concern is the flow of water coming down from the mountain, going into the stream that actually has some ODF and W control on it that flows into Nadana Pond. Common sense would say, leave the wetlands alone. Okay. I mean, I understand people want to do development. I understand people want the funding from that. I understand the city would get funding from it, but you also have to look other than it being legality. We are so far off mark of using common sense anymore. And we need to get back to using common sense. And common sense would say, no, don't build. Leave it alone. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
The chair recognizes, I'm sorry, I can't get the first name, LaFrance?
It's Arthur LaFrance. Is this the time when people opposed are speaking?
Yes. Please approach the podium and state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
Arthur LaFrance, 1707 Southwest Coronado Street, Portland, Oregon. But for 20 odd years, we have had a place here in Lockaway, 4 blocks from here, and participated in various civic activities, of which this is one. I have to say that I feel sympathy for you folks dealing with this mess. It has, I should add, I'm an attorney retired, a law professor retired, and a law school dean retired. I've had to deal with messes. This one takes the cake. It started ab initio with a map that nobody could read. And then it went on to a bifurcated order as to which there was a 1-year limit. The order was modified. They never said whether the 1-year limit applied to the modification. It gets worse. I've tried to make sense of the Luba order. I don't know how anybody can. They say reverse the approval by the city council, but remand to the city council. So what I propose to do is simply this. Could I ask who wrote the staff report? Is it Mr. Tassin? Well, maybe, I guess I'm causing some embarrassment. Here's what I want to do.
Probably just.
It's a terrific report. As an administrator, if I had gotten reports like this, I would have treasured those people. I would have treasured the reports. It's clear, it's concise, it's comprehensive. It tells you what to do in terms that you could adopt. And what it says is reverse in particular order. Now, what I want to do is just mention a word of caution, because as to assignment 1, Luba said that you should make findings. Now, in the world of law, findings are a legally technical instrument, and the staff report phraseology is not in the format of findings. So be cautious. Secondly, as to the second issue, Luba does not require making findings. It remands for you folks to consider certain questions. I have tried very hard to figure out what those questions are. I can't. So for the city planner, if he's the gentleman to whom I'm particularly speaking, be careful. There's a distinction between 1 and 2 as to what your obligations are, because here's what I really don't know, because I don't know municipal law. I don't know the relationship of Luba to this body. In other words, I know what it has said. I don't know whether you must abide by the limits they impose. Findings in one instance, in the other instance, addressing questions. What it does say is...
1 minute.
What it does say as to number 2 is you are to resolve in the first instance. That means as though it had never previously been resolved as to that 1-year limit, whether it applied to parts 1 or 2. So there are some delicate differences that have got to be scrutinized carefully. Finally, what I will say is this thing's been going on for 20 years. Whatever you do, put an end to it, because at some point, this applicant is going to have to start all over again. Put everybody's pain at an end and get that applicant to that point as quickly as you possibly can. And above all, honor your staff. Whoever wrote this report, it is wonderful. I'm not sure that's opposition, but I think I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice guy. The chair recognizes Michael Zuniga. Please approach the podium and state your full name and address for the record.
My name is
Minutes that-
Zuniga.
Let me just finish my statement, please. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
My name is Michael Zuniga. I'm a new resident. My address here is 8550 Duke Street, Rockaway. I wanted just to share some perspectives of what I've seen since I've come here, which is about 3 or 4 months. Great people, great environment. This report and the issues surrounding the expansion caused me concern. I live right on the edge of the waterways there, and was part of maybe that house shouldn't have been built, right? Well, what I'm seeing here today, right? Great staff report. I've heard from the applicant. There's obviously this or that. He said, she said. There's a lot of nebulous comments from both sides, but I do believe in the report that your staff that provided. The people that are here today, right? It seems like you got a full crowd, probably more so than ever before, but they are your constituents. And I just want to reach out to the city council that your constituents are asking you to support your staff report. It has been presented in spite of the applicant's perspective on things. And I'm thankful to be here, and I hope that we get this solved in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Delta Holderness. Please approach the podium and state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
Hello. Nice to see everybody again. My name is Delta Holderness. I live at 9340 Song Street in Rockaway Beach. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. First, I would like to begin by thanking the city staff for the very thorough report presented to you this evening. I understand that in the course of the comprehensive review of historical records, they even retrieved, dusted off, you might say, and reviewed cassette recordings. We went old school back then, didn't we? 2008. I personally took the time to read the 142 pages of the historical meeting minutes. Took a little bit of time, but it was very informative. I'd like to say that LUBA is the bearer of the knowledge of land use. Under their name, Land Use Board. They're the experts. So I concur with both the staff report and the LUBA decision that the special area wetlands constitutes a base zone. I don't see how you can just move wetlands around and say this is special area and this is regular wetlands and this is R1. There has to be some delineation. And a special area wetland does not identify residential development as either a permitted or conditional use. The staff report further confirms that the proposed lots fall within areas mapped as the SA zone. We have to have a better map than what we had in 2008. Going with the same map doesn't help anybody. Two wrongs don't make a right. Accordingly, residential construction is not going to be permissible in those SA zones. That's how the law works. The second issue before you is more complex. I wish we had time to read more of the second issue because he laid it out very well in the staff report, but he found extensive evidence to support the conclusion that phase 1 and phase 2 are linked under that 1-year time limit for completing required improvements, which includes streets, the pump house. And while I cannot reiterate all the details of that staff report given my limited time, I do wish to emphasize my agreement with the conclusion that phase 1 and phase 2 are linked. I fully support the staff's conclusion that because the 1-year deadline for completing improvements was not met, that the 2007-19 two-phase development for the Nadana Wave 28-lot PUD subdivision has expired and is no longer valid. And as a result, that requested modification from last year must also be deemed invalid. Therefore, I respectfully urge the City Council to adopt the staff report in its entirety, thereby declaring the Nadana Wave PUD invalid and the current modification request void. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Judy Coleman. Please approach the podium and state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
My name's Judy Coleman, and I don't live in Rockaway, but I'm a local to the area. I live P.O. Box 81, Nehalem, Oregon, and I walk that area quite a bit. I love Nadana because it's just so diverse, and I have a background in environmental science. That was my training and my career. And when I walked the area that is in question, to my eye, I saw wetland plants everywhere, and so to my eye, it should not be developed. And I thought that it would benefit the remaining houses in Nadana to leave, or the houses in Nadana to leave the remaining wetlands standing for water filtration, flood control, biodiversity, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Like to just say that I'm not happy with the clapping. There's no difference between clapping and booing. So let's have a dignified meeting and listen to the speakers and move on. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Suzanne Thompson. Did I get that right? All right, please approach the podium and state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
It's Suzanne Thompson, 26085 David Avenue, in Rockaway Beach, in Nadana. This is going to be short, so we're not getting to the red lights at all. I'm going to talk about the consequences of these two errors. It is essential to protect the watershed and the wetlands that protect and provide clean water to the homes in Nadana and Rockaway. And all of us, residents and visitors, can live in this beautiful area and visit this beautiful area without compromising our health. I strongly urge you to follow the staff report to reject the Nadana Wave development application and not allow the proposed development. Let's protect our wetlands and watershed. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Seth Thompson. Please approach the podium and state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
Seth Thompson, 26085 David Avenue. We have owned our house in Nadana for 30 years now. I want to keep this just real simple. I thought the staff report was comprehensive. I thought it was thorough. I thought it was sensible. And I strongly encourage the City Council to adopt the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Mandy Watson. Please approach the podium and state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4, will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
Good evening, members of the City Council. Mandy Watson. I'm just down the coast at 13925 Northwest Kona in Seal Rock. I'm the Coastal Conservation Manager for Oregon Shores Conservation Coalition. We represented by Crag Law Center were the petitioners in the recent LUBA appeal. And I want to thank the City Council for taking this remand seriously and hosting this hearing tonight. First, regarding the first assignment of area, special area wetland zone, these wetlands aren't just lines on a map, they're designated special area wetland zone for a reason, as they provide essential ecological services, including wildlife habitat and flood protection. But maybe most importantly, they sit above a drinking water aquifer that's crucial as a backup drinking water source for the Rockaway Beach. The security of drinking water on the Oregon coast is declining with climate change, sea level rise, projected saltwater intrusion, and overwhelmed from increased septic tanks, which is a very real and very crappy issue that the city of Rockaway Beach is facing. And the people of Rockaway Beach may need this aquifer desperately at some time in the future. Between water security, resilience to flooding and climate change, habitat for endangered species, recreational opportunities, all the other reasons everyone here mentioned tonight, the benefits of leaving these wetlands wild will be extremely tangible to this community. And you may be thinking this is just one small area of Rockaway Beach's wetlands. How much harm could come from developing these two parcels? Why is it significant? But similar wetland land use debates, conservation versus development, are happening across the state, and you'll likely deal with this soon here in Rockaway Beach. And while growth and development are inevitable, as members of the city council, you have a responsibility to ensure that future development does not compromise the integrity and resilience of the community as a whole. We must ensure that growth does not erode resources and quality of life that existing residents rely on, and the approval of the Nadonaway PUD would do just that. Finally, I'll just add that fair enforcement of city rules builds public trust, ensures equal treatment for residents and developers, whether it's about following wetland zoning rules or applying development timelines consistently. The integrity of Rockaway Beach's land use decisions depends on following your own laws. Without that, laws lose its meaning. In this case, your own staff report and the Land Use Board of Appeals agree, and they've provided a clear path forward, and I urge you to follow their guidance. Officially rejecting the development of these wetlands would be a demonstration of your care and dedication to your own city rules, your community, and the future of Rockaway Beach. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have a C. Ambries. Somebody put a C period. Oh, okay.
It's already been said.
Okay, that's good. But you're welcome to talk. I don't want to. No. Okay, all right. The chair recognizes Annette Dean.
Oh, Annette Dine. I was just signing in. I don't have any testimony.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're going to people who are on the Zoom call. The chair recognizes Gary. Please state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
My name is Gary Corbin. My mailing address is 1031 Northwest Ivy Drive in Camas, Washington, 98607. My Rockaway address is 26642 Kittiwake Drive, which my wife and I have owned since 2012. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I urge you to reject the remanded application for approval of the Nadana Wave Development Proposal as recommended by LUBA and city staff for the following reasons, and they're the ones LUBA gave you. 1, the time period for approval of further development has long since expired, and 2, the area being developed is zoned SA or Special Area Wetland, which is a primary zoning designation, and Rockaway Beach's own zoning code does not permit residential development on SA designated land, no matter what Nadana Wave's lawyer tries to tell you. LUBA clearly noted that under the original approval of this application in 2008, all improvements had to be completed within 1 year. That did not happen, and the city never granted an extension. The original approval has therefore expired, and no further development should be allowed. Regarding the wetlands designation, the city code is clear. No residential development is permitted on SA-zoned areas. While the applicant claims that their property is not in the SA zone, city maps clearly show otherwise. If anything, the wetland area has expanded since 2008 due to the impact of other developments that have shifted the footprints of Nadana and McMillan Creeks and raised water levels in ways that already threaten existing homes and property. To the extent there is uncertainty over this, the city should clarify the matter by hiring independent experts to remap the area and analyze the new map against the map of the proposed development. No development should occur in the meantime, and no development should occur within any SA-zoned areas. Now, you've heard the same arguments from Nadana Wave's lawyer in 2024 that you heard tonight, and Luba said he got it wrong then. Here he is again. Don't get it wrong again. I urge you to reject the application for the Nadana Wave development. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Eric Riston. Please state your full name and address. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, the timer will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Eric Riston. I am an attorney at Cragg Law Center, here representing Oregon Shores Conservation Coalition. My address is 3141 East Burnside Street, Portland, Oregon, 97214. I'm here tonight to emphasize to you all, as others already have, that you'd be wise to follow the words of Luba and the words of the excellent staff report in this case. I know this has been far from a straightforward application so far, as Mr. LaFrance highlighted well, and I really thank the City Council for your thoughtful consideration of the issues here, both prior to Luba's remand and in this new proceeding. The issues before you tonight, however, I hope are at least somewhat more simple than they were last time. They're the two issues we've been talking about all night. And the staff report does a really great job of laying out exactly why the answer to both of those questions requires the City Council to deny this application. I want to highlight just a few points in rebuttal to the applicant here. First, on the first assignment of error, you've received a lot of testimony and maps showing that the development is within the protected special area wetland zone. That includes the maps prepared by your staff, which are exactly what Luba asked for. They are maps showing where the R1 and SA zone boundaries are and what in this development is within them or not, and it shows that the development is within them. The applicant tries to avoid these maps by arguing that the 2008 decision somehow rezoned the site by implication, which is a remarkable argument that not only ignores Luba's remand here, but ignores basic principles of land use law. As Oregon Shores highlighted in their comment, a rezone is a very specific process with a lot of its own procedures. It doesn't just happen by implication, as the applicant implies. Applicant's additional argument that this should be allowed here anyways ignores the density requirements of the PUD zone, which are again limited to the underlying zone, not the full PUD, but the full SA zone, which again doesn't allow any residential development, i.e. it doesn't allow any housing. Second, on the second assignment of error, the applicant essentially admits that this application has expired in their rebuttal testimony, in their written testimony they submitted. They admit that there was a condition for development to be completed within 1 year of tentative plan approval. They then try to confuse the issue by confusing the difference between tentative plan approval and preliminary plan approval, which is really irrelevant considering the full development got tentative plan approval, as the staff report highlighted, and the applicant also ignores the condition language that explicitly references preliminary plan approval and includes the proper dates. Once again, the applicant ignores the language that's in those decisions and tries to go forward with an approach of assumptions, what ifs. That doesn't make sense, not the actual language of the law and what is required. Finally, I just want to address the applicant's contention that denying this application would not be consistent with the past decisions of the city. That's exactly the point of Luba's decision. Luba said the city was applying, especially this SA wetland zone, incorrectly. That's the natural outcome here, is it has to be applied differently. But I want to say that that doesn't mean that there's these sweeping consequences that the applicant highlights. No houses are going to become illegal because of this. All of those homes already have their permits, they're established, they're legal, there will be no impact. Thank you again for your careful consideration of these issues. I once again urge you to follow LUBA's opinion in your staff report here. And as one of the attorneys who represented Oregon Shores in the appeal at LUBA, I'm happy to answer any questions from the council about that opinion at any point. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the chair recognizes Chris. Please state your full name and address for the record. After 3 minutes, the timer will turn yellow. After 4 minutes, will turn red. Please conclude your comments at that time.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to the council. I appreciate the work that has been put into this. I think it's good work, and I think you're acting on the staff report is definitely speaking on behalf of the residents and visitors to our beautiful place. I have, my family's had a place in Rockaway for 60 years. My folks retired here many years ago. My sister, brother-in-law, and I live here now since our retirement as well. I have seen the damage that's inflicted when municipalities fail to adhere to state and county rules and regulations regarding our coastal habitats. Riprap has been approved in various places all along Rockaway Beach despite Goal 18. Tillamook County ignored LUBA's remand on the Pine Beach Loop development, allowing those owners to install revetment when they had been told prior to building it would not be allowed. I've read the LUBA remand and the City of Rockaway Beach staff report, and they concur that the two assignments of error disqualify any approval of this project. Residents and visitors rely on our governing bodies to protect our beaches, coastal habitats, and the public's interest ahead of private owners who, if allowed, will cause damage at the expense of the greatest good for the greatest number. I take exception, as Eric did, to the lawyer suggesting that prior city planners and council members could not all have been in error in the prior decisions. Lawyers clearly not familiar with prior decisions of the City of Rockaway Beach, which were often riddled with errors, example being the Tai Dang fiasco. Also, to assert that the houses will have to be removed, I agree 100% with Eric that that is not the case. They're permitted, they're grandfathered, and that's just a lot of misleading information. I absolutely urge the City of Rockaway Beach Council to reverse the prior council's approvals of the project, to listen to LUBA and the staff, and deny application for PUD 24-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, did you want to give your address?
Oh, yes, I wrote that in my notes and immediately forgot it. Yes, my name is Chris. It's Chris. Last name Berry, Berrie. My address is 18040 Ocean Boulevard, Rockaway Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to staff response and clarification. Here again from the staff. Do you have anything to add?
Sure. I would like to add a couple of details. In the presentation, I keep it at a high level, but I do want to, at this time, provide a little bit more information as the conversation progressed. So one of the things that is tricky about this case is the timeline of events in 2008. And I just want to clarify exactly what happened when. So on January 29 of 2008, in a public hearing, the Planning Commission reviewed the preliminary development plan for the entire 20-lot PUD, as well as 3 variances that were related to that application. And the Planning Commission adopted and approved that preliminary development plan. And before I keep going, I just want to also clarify a little bit about some of the language that is being used. There are 4 distinct processes that are involved when it comes to making a planned unit development. As the applicant pointed out, we have what is a preliminary development plan, which is part of the PUD process. The historic record also refers to this as the preliminary plan. We have the final plan, which is also a PUD process. Then we have a tentative plan, which is also referred as a preliminary subdivision plan in our zoning ordinance. And the historic record refers to this as tentative plat. And then we also have the final plat. So both the tentative plan and final plat are, as the applicant pointed out, a subdivision processes. So the question became for this second assignment of error is what happened and when did it happen? So on May 27 of 2008, the Planning Commission heard a hearing to review the final approval for the 28 lot PUD. So that was the final plan. And so both in January 29, 2008 and May 27, 2008, there were the preliminary plan, the final plan, and also a tentative plan was provided, which was for the entire 28 PUD. And that included in one of the exhibits, that tentative plan. If you want to reference it, it's Appendix I. And then, so we had that approval for both the preliminary plan, the final plan, and the tentative plan that happened by May 27th. On July 22nd, that is when the applicant applied to have the PUD phased. So at that point, there were amendments to both the preliminary development plan, the final plan, and the tentative plan. So that's where a lot of the questions and issues stem, was in part this order of events, which is not necessarily a regular order of events for this. And then I just wanted to clarify that, and I'm happy to answer any specific questions.
Councilors have any questions? Raise your hand. No questions. All right, we will move on to the applicant final rebuttal. Come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dean Alderman again for the applicant. One of the common points, many of the people whom you've heard speaking in opposition, is the belief that this application proposes development in the wetlands. In fact,
could you speak a little louder, please?
One of the common threads of many of the people who spoke in opposition is the belief that this application proposes development in the wetland areas. That is, with one exception, that is inconsistent with the wetlands delineations that are in the record, both from 2006 and from 2024. The one exception is Jackson Street, which was not a wetland in 2006.
Excuse me, we can't hear you back here. Is your microphone on?
Break up a little.
Yes, it's on. Can you raise it up?
I can attempt it. I'm not very good at
Please there, sir. There, I will.
All right, is that a little better? One of the misconceptions of many of the opponents was the idea that this application is requesting permission to develop the wetland. The wetland area is the open space, both the open space set aside in phase 1 and the open space set aside.
We still can't hear back here.
As loud as we can get it. That's as loud as we can get it to go.
Sorry.
The one exception is the Jackson Street right-of-way, which the applicant began to construct but didn't finish after the 2008 approval. She excavated, that became a wetland. It wasn't then, but it's also not part of any of the residential building lots. The second point in response, there was Mr. Riskin claimed that Luba said that the Donna development, or maybe me personally, got it wrong. That is not actually what Luba said. Luba said, "City, please explain yourself in more detail." Luba very carefully did not say anything about who was right and who was wrong. It said, "We can't tell from the findings. Please give us more detailed findings." That's all. To the extent Mr. Riskin is suggesting that Luba thought the applicant's position is wrong, he is simply mistaken. There were very few other points in opposition to respond to. One is, of course, the question of the illegal development. I think the last witness said that's grandfathered development. It doesn't matter. Under your code, it's grandfathered development only if it was legal when built. If you get a permit for something that isn't legal, it isn't grandfathered. However, by the same logic, which for this purpose I'm happy with, I don't want anybody's house torn down either. the PUD permit grandfathered in that approval as to where the zoning is under exactly that argument. The zoning was fixed in 2008 and it hasn't changed since. To the extent that that didn't fix the zoning, we have shown that the 2015 map, the county's GIS system, doesn't connect to the city zoning. It is a completely different map. That may be one of the things that puzzled Luba, but the answer when Luba tells you, please explain what your zoning map, the black and white map with the stripes, please explain your zoning map. Luba isn't telling you go up and rezone 20 or so parcels by adopting a different map that isn't yours. As Mr. Riskin explained to you, there's a process to rezoning. You can't rezone everybody's property by adopting a map that you don't even maintain. We've answered all the points that were raised. We have shown that this meets the criteria. We've shown that it doesn't actually matter where the zoning boundary is, but that what we want to develop is outside the delineated wetlands area, and ask that you approve this application again. Thank you.
All right. Does council have any further questions of staff or the applicant before we close tonight's hearing? If you do, raise your hand. As a reminder, once the council enters deliberations, there will be no further comments or questions to the applicant or any members of the public. Council may only ask clarifying questions about the application to the staff. Again, any questions, raise your hand. There's no indication of questions. There being no further questions from council tonight, I now close the hearing for remand 25-1 at 6:56. We're going to take a 4-minute break and we will reconvene at 7 o'clock.
The
recording has stopped.
These are just lists.
This meeting is being recorded.
The session resumes at 7 p.m. Okay, let me begin by thanking all who took an interest in this land use decision. Civic engagement drives to better results. What we want tonight and need is a legally justified decision, and I applaud those who used the appeal process to bring us to this hearing. Second, let me be clear that no one in your city government or on this council wants building in wetlands or other environmentally sensitive areas. This is evidenced by the city suggesting a rail to trail would be a better option for the Salmonberry Trail when we learn that a trail next to the tracks would impact environmentally sensitive areas from here to Banks. So the council may now deliberate and issue a final decision. If council members, councilors have any comments or questions of the staff, please raise your hand and we'll begin the deliberation.
I have no questions, Mayor. I want to say I am relatively new to the council, and so when I received this packet, it was just imperative that I got up to speed and read through this. And I appreciate the effort and the history that has been in place for 15 plus years. And after reading through all of this and listening to the reports and the positions of everyone, I still go back to developing wetlands is not an option. And there's all kinds of ways to maybe work around that, but I've not seen anything that allows that, in my opinion. And the other piece is that the amount of time that has passed since this process started, for me, at some point, this has to sunset. There's that wetlands probably looks very different than it did when this process started. At the very least, the due diligence requires a study and a delineation of that area that's current. And so that's my position on this at this time.
Any other, raise your hand if you have comments or questions or suggestions.
Yeah,
Councilor McGinnis.
Thank you. I also want to thank all the people through starting last year in 2024 who went to the Planning Commission, who have come several times to City Council. I agree with the Mayor McNeely that community engagement is essential for a strong community. And I appreciate that. I really want to thank the staff, Mary Johnson Mertz and Abram, for their work in helping us counselors make sense of all of this material. We have consulted over a long period of time with staff. They're not here where you can see it now, but we have an attorney that we've been working with also. I also want to thank both sides of the appeal. I have learned a lot from both sides, and I appreciate the information and prodding us as city councilors to dig deeper and to make sure the city always keeps improving each time something like this comes forward to us. So thank both sides for the work you have presented to us. And I think that there will be a relook at development in that area going forward, no matter what the decision, because as Councilor Ryan just said, it has changed a lot over 2 decades, and it doesn't look like it did back in 2008. So, yeah, but for now, we make a decision on what we have in front of us.
Councilors, any other comments?
I've been on the council in the planning department since 2011. So I have gotten to hear the back and forth on this over the years. I have my personal opinions, but I can't make my decision on my personal opinions. I have to put it towards the evidence that I've seen.
I'm ready to vote. All right, well, the chair will entertain a motion that based on the facts and evaluations presented in the city staff report and evidence presented, that the Rockaway Beach City Council reverse the Planning Commission's July 18th, 2024 decision on application PUD 24-1, and in doing so, deny application PUD 24-1 and direct staff to prepare findings and conclusions consistent with this decision and authorize the mayor to sign an order to that effect.
Read this.
Yeah.
I move based on the facts and evaluations presented in the city staff report and evidence presented that the Rockaway Beach Council reverse the Planning Commission's July 18th, 2024 decision on application PUD 24-1, and in doing so deny application PUD 24-1 and direct staff to prepare findings and conclusions consistent with this decision and authorize the mayor to sign an order to that effect.
Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded that based on the facts and evaluations presented in the city staff report and evidence presented that the Rockaway Beach City Council reverse the Planning Commission's July 18th, 2024 decision on application PUD 24-1, and in doing so, deny application PUD 24-1 and direct staff to prepare findings and conclusions consistent with this decision and authorize the mayor to sign an order to that effect. Is there any discussion from council? Raise your hand if you have something.
No, I just, like I said earlier, I thank everyone for the input they've given to us and especially the city staff, city attorney, all the different people working on this. There's things in the future coming up, I'm sure.
All right, well, let's vote. Council President Cheek.
Yes.
Councilor Conriff.
Yes.
Councilor Martine.
Yes.
Councilor McGinnis.
Yes.
Councilor Ryan.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. We have no further business this evening, so may I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
It's moved and seconded. Let's vote. Council President Cheek. It's not a baseball game.
It's better.
Council President Cheek.
Yes.
Councilor Conriff.
Yes.
Councilor Martine.
Yes.
Councilor McGinnis.
Yes.
Councilor Ryan.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 7:09 on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025.